All right, welcome back. If you've just tuned in, some breaking news on your screen. 6 people in Mpumalanga tavern shooting have been killed at this point. We also know that 6 others are hospitalized following the shootout. That's the information that has trickled in at this hour. We'll continue to monitor developments as we get more information from our reporter, Tumelo Machoho, who is making his way there and, of course, will bring us the latest as it unfolds. But just as we recap that 6 killed in Mpumalanga tavern shooting, as we also know that 6 others are hospitalized following that shootout. But perhaps also turning to more urgent matters for the day, we're looking at the ANC's 113th celebrations. In fact, following the cake cutting celebrations in Cape Town, we do know that President Ramaphosa admitted that the party has their work cut out for them, while South Africa, of course, celebrated a key milestone as well, 30 years into democracy. And so when we look at some of the strides, but also the challenges, Professor Lesiba Teffo, political analyst, is going to be joining us to weigh in ahead of what we can expect today. Prof, therefore, good morning, and thank you for joining us here on the SABC at this hour.
Good morning, Lizel, and the viewers at home.
All right, so Prof, we have seen, week-long activities for the ANC. And I wonder, from your vantage point at this point, you could highlight the lay of the land, what's unfolding for the ANC 30 years into democracy. Are you hopeful? I'm only asking this because, we're looking at some of the strides, but we're also looking at some of the misses as well.
Yeah, thanks, Lizel. Look, the choice of venue is also significant for me in the sense that it is the battleground where they lost in the first 10 years of democracy. They ran that province for the first 10 years. Since then, they never got it right. If anything, their electoral support has been going down, 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 until they surrendered, by the way. Right? They did their damnedest, if I may use that strong term, to even make it ungovernable, hoping that the people would at least ensure that they can get back. But they ultimately surrendered. I understand that. And it is that behoved them to interrogate themselves and say, but why? After 10 years, people walked away from us and they never wanted to look back. But that they've decided to go back there, maybe it is good for them. They can reconnect and do that. But the political literacy of that community is fairly high. I don't see any hope for them that they can ever regain that province, not in the immediate future. But let them remain hopeful. That's fine. Now, the other part speaks to your question speaks to, is there hope for them or not? I campaigned in the past 15 years for a government for a coalition government in the speech and in writing, because I've experienced across the continent that one dominant party system, especially a liberation movement, right, tend to suffer from the sins of incumbency, corruption, cronyism, kleptocracy, episcocracy, all those, almost all of them failed the people since 1960. Almost all of them failed the people, especially the liberation movement. And they tend to manage fairly well in the first 20 years. And indeed, in the first 15 years, the ANC did pretty well, especially under the man I consider the best CEO the ANC ever gave us, Thabo Mbeki. We did pretty well. We almost punched beyond our weight in the continent and beyond. But since then, it has been a downward spiral. But the government of national unity, for me, gives the ANC an opportunity to redeem itself. One, the careerists, the comprados, the thieves, the charlatans, who see the ANC as a behemoth from which to feed off, will walk away once there are no tenders. And the good men and women will remain. Therein, for me, lies a possibility condition for the redemption of the ANC. Okay. Number two, one example, then I keep quiet. There is an incident in KwaZulu-Natal where one man or one company was given over 1.1 billion rand illicitly or illegally or unfairly of tenders. And the DA mayor, if I may call it that, which is not the right, the MBC, the right description, but that's where we are, at least for purposes of emphasis, let me use that. And he stepped in and said, but you are telling me something is right. Can we investigate? Within 2 months, that matter was resolved and the fellow was fired, which means it is doable. You can fight corruption if you want to. Within 2-3 months, those contracts were found to be illicit, and then the fellow was fired. And I read about that. I'm sure it has been covered extensively during the course of this. What am I saying? If you are prepared, determined to fight corruption, you can. If they can learn from this experience, and they say, we are not going to interfere. Whoever wants to fight corruption, we are going to help him, or we are not going to interfere. The ANC has a possibility condition for redemption. Take a cue from there and move on.
Okay, Prof. So perhaps justifications for the government of national unity are some of the sentiments that have been reflected in terms of what people are expecting from the president in his statement. I'm hearing also regaining public trust at large and also accountability. And so in the week, we also heard that ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa claims that the party will bounce back, especially come 2026 as we edge closer to local government elections. We also saw how they fared in the by-elections, which was hopeful for them across the country at least. But the president also saying that he's not oblivious to the fact that it will require a lot of hard work. What are you witnessing on that front in terms of service delivery and governance?
Look, I had someone tell me in the classroom then in my early days, too many words full of passion signify nothing. What is the president saying that he hasn't said before, that his comrades haven't said before? That you want to reconnect, rebuild trust. Forget about the words. Actions speak louder than words. They've said it so many times that the people no longer take them serious. Somebody says, can you sit down and listen and talk to us later? I say, but what is it that is going to tell me that I do not know? What is it? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And unless you tell me a program of action that can rekindle some hope and trust that maybe based on this, we might see something. Let me tell you 4 things that if you were to talk about and bracket everything else and say, let's concentrate on this for the next 12 years, 12 months as ANC. The likelihood is that people might say, you are beginning to do something. One, you can do whatever you please, Lizelle, as long as you don't address the question of migration. You're wasting time. You are wasting time. Some of us said this 15 years ago and said, by the time you want to deal with this question, you might find that it's too late. And the very people that you want to deal with, they might be sufficiently armed to fight you, to fight back. One, that's what. Number two, I said it then and I repeat, unless you change or amend the Electoral Act, that the people elect their own leaders, forget about turning things around, especially under the banner of the ANC. People have had it. This gatekeeping, and by the way, this is not even a democracy. For me, this is a quasi-democracy. Even in the most challenged countries under the sun, one day people queue and elect their leaders, a president, a governor, a prime minister, or whatever. But we don't do that. Number 3, the tender system. As long as you don't deal with that, get rid of this and build state capacity. Even under the homeland system, the ideology was wrong, but the systems worked very well. You would never run short of technical services, be it a plumber, be it a carpenter, be it an electrician. All the municipalities that had those people. You would never have a pothole because within 24 hours, you needed just a call and the municipality would attend to that because they had ready-made, employed permanent people in the space rather than the tenders. Lastly, BEE, affirmative action, whatever you call it, who benefited out of that? The politically connected. As long as you don't deal with this 4, keep talking and talking and talking.
Because, Prof, obviously South Africa's socioeconomic conditions impact the quality of our democracy. That's a point that you have alluded to. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for those sentiments. I know that this is going to serve as a conversation starter, perhaps, for some of the expectations ahead of the president addressing the nation, or those in attendance, rather, but also where to from here as the ANC continues to govern and obviously campaign ahead of 2026. So, Prof, Lesiba Teffo this morning, political analyst, chatting ahead of the ANC's 113th anniversary festivities that are underway in Khayelitsha today.